start with a game that's going to impact the rankings that we just put out. That's the Buckeyes hosting Indiana. Obviously, Buckeyes 9-1, only loss at Oregon by 1 point, and Kirk Cignetti has Indiana Hoosiers 10-0 right now. A couple things. Indiana is coming off of a bye.
Yep.
Okay. Last time we saw them, they were beating Michigan. The Buckeyes are coming off of a semi-bye because they played at Northwestern and handled business there. Right now, the line is -12.5 Buckeyes. Are you surprised by the line? 51.5 is the over-under. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Man, to be honest with you, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. I'm not surprised by anything. And I don't doubt Vegas. There are a lot of people like, how is Kansas only a 2.5-point underdog on the road at BYU? Well, they won by 4.
Just not surprised by anything.
I'm not surprised by anything nowadays.
I will scare you at some point in the show today.
Well, I'm not talking about you sneaking up from behind the TV or when I'm at the microwave at the house. But nothing in college football surprised me. No spread really surprises me anymore. There's some I want to take advantage of and some I don't. But as far as this game, and we deep dive, I think, a little bit different than everybody else here. I want to throw a couple things at you guys, a couple numbers. Both of these quarterbacks have an over 50% completion percentage when they're throwing the ball 20 yards down the field or more.
Wow.
That is really, really good. I think Indiana's 51%. I think Ohio State is 50%. When it comes to balance, Indiana is about as close to balanced offensively as you can possibly get. You'll never truly be 50-50, but they are amazingly close. I've said since the beginning, when Indiana started to get hot, I don't think Indiana's elite at anything. They're just really good at everything. When you watch the way they operate, they're not electric, they're not flashy, it's not sexy, but they stay on schedule. They live in 2nd and 4, they live in 3rd and 1, and one of the reasons they're able to complete these passes downfield, not just that Surratt and Cooper are really good players that can go get the ball, it's that they're in advantageous downs and they're able to dictate to the defense when they want to take the shots, which means you're taking opportune shots against coverages that you like. Another big question I have in this game, when I look at Indiana going into it, is they average giving up, I think, 5.9 yards per catch, which is actually pretty good, which means they're tackling in space pretty well. But I don't know if they have seen a team like Ohio State with these type of guys on the outside. And they also have a corner that is a great player that transferred from JMU. Potts, I think is his last name. He's 5'9". He's their boundary corner. He's going to be going up against 6'3" Jeremiah Smith. That is a matchup I would really like if I'm Ohio State. But I know what Chip Kelly's going to do, guys, and it's what he should do. He's going to see if he can run the ball early. He's going to test Indiana's mettle up front. Now, Ohio State's offensive line hasn't really been great, in my opinion. We can go back all the way to the Akron game at the beginning of the year. We've had questions about that. And Indiana's front seven has been pretty good stopping the run. But I wonder if Will Howard's legs, mixed with Ohio State's ability on the offensive line, even though it hasn't been great, we know they're talented, if Indiana's going to have to eventually start funneling resources to stop the run. And the minute they do that and they're skinny in the back end, they are going to give up big plays. And if you look at the way Indiana hits big plays, they don't get a ton of separation at wide receiver down the field. And I know I'm bouncing back and forth, but these things marry each other. They really go up and win a lot of jump balls. That's what they do. So going against Burke, going against whoever, Downs in the safety position, Ohio State has guys that I think can cover them. What I worry about is Indiana can't stay on schedule this game, and they can't hit big plays in this game. And even if that Indiana defense in that front seven is slowing down the run, Chip Kelly is going to supplement the run with the quick passing game that Ohio State's really good at, whether they're bubbles, whether they're nows, whether they're slants, and whether they're hitches. And I just think Ohio State may have too many answers for what Indiana does defensively. And Indiana, because Rourke's not great at creating outside of the pocket, he's more of an in-the-pocket, extended from in-the-pocket type guy. I don't think Indiana has enough answers to questions if things aren't perfectly on schedule offensively. So Indiana deserves all the credit for where they've gotten. I just look at the matchups in this game, and they heavily favor Ohio State to me.
How do you have it right now?
There's a reason this game's 12.5, but a couple things I'll look at first. Let's look at Indiana, what keeps you on the beam, and that's balance. From an offensive standpoint, they are a very balanced football team. They can throw it, they can run it. They're averaging 44 points a game, which is really good. And you flip it to the other side, they're one of the best defenses in the Big Ten. You're only giving up 13.8 points a game, which is insane, to Ohio State's 10.3, which is even crazier. But right now, it's another thing that you can kind of lean on. It's momentum. Right? Momentum matters in this game, and I don't know a team that has more momentum right now than Indiana. It's one of those things when you get there and you haven't been there before, and Indiana hasn't. Not in this type of picture, not in this type of place, to where you don't even know that you're there, so you play loose, you play fun. If Indiana's going to win this football game, first thing, crowd has to matter. All right? Crowd has to matter. Crowd has to make a difference. You got to win up front. The weakest part of, in my opinion, in Ohio State is the offensive line. And can you get to the quarterback? It's not about just pressuring him, but it's about getting him on the ground. If I'm Indiana, I want it on Will's shoulders for 4 quarters to see that he can actually go prove it and go win a football game. You go to the other side in Ohio State, I mean, you just have athletes running around all over the field. You have 2 at running back. You have 3 basically at receiver, but your offensive line hasn't been great. How important is Will Howard's feet in this game in third down in big moments? And you flip it kind of other side to momentum. You know, Indiana hasn't been here before. They don't know how to play in this type of game. So if there's anything, Ohio State, you want to turn the ball over, and you need something to go right early. If something goes right early, you get up early, it takes everything out of the crowd, then it's a completely different football game. So this will be an interesting football game, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down like every other big matchup you see, who can win up front.
Well, this one will be at the Horseshoe, which is already a very difficult place to play. Now, Kirk Cignetti, in my opinion, is playing with house money by Indiana football standards. Most people think of Indiana as a basketball school, don't think of a lot of success when it comes to Indiana football, and that's why they've already 10 games in signed him to an extension. But I don't think Kirk Cignetti's playing with house money based off his own standards.
No.
I think he's ready to come in here and win this conference in year 1, and you can't lose this game and still win the conference. As unfathomable as it seems to go 11-1, you're going to be on the outside of Indianapolis looking in, because I don't think the Buckeyes lose to Michigan next week to trigger any sort of tie break between you and a 1-loss Penn State. Now, will a 1 loss to this team this weekend mean that you're shut out of the college football playoff? Likely not at 11-1, but I really think it matters how Indiana plays in this game, man. To me, you can't go in and lose by 30 points to the Buckeyes, even though they are the number 2 team in the country, and just hope that you get the benefit of the doubt over a bureaucratic committee who we've seen will put a 1-loss Alabama in over an undefeated Florida State team in. Don't leave it up to them to put you ahead of some of these SEC teams that we just saw right there with the logjam with 2 losses. If you win this game, you'll play in the conference championship against Oregon, and that will give you a chance to get an automatic qualifier, which I think is Indiana's best chance to move forward and really solidify a college football playoff berth in year 1 of Kirk Cignetti.
Yeah, and to that point, if you are a fan of one of these 2-loss SEC teams, or if you are a fan of a bubble team, you know, we can use that term now for college football, you want either 2 outcomes to happen. Either Indiana just wins outright, or they get blown out. You do not want Indiana to lose this game by 7. You do not want Indiana to lose this game by 10 and it look like a fight, because then Indiana's definitely going to get in, because they're going to murder Purdue next week. They get them at home. They're going to finish 11-1. So there's two different outcomes you want. Either Indiana just wins outright, okay, which gives Ohio State that second loss, or that Indiana just gets blown out, like 52-14, and they look like they don't belong. But you brought up the crowd, Blaine, and it's a great point.
And this game's at Ohio State.
This game is at Ohio State, right? So here's Indiana's road games this year. At UCLA, crickets. At Northwestern, crickets. Just hope they don't turn the lights off and put masks on. At Michigan State, down year Michigan State, new coach. Not that it's not loud, but it's not going to be this level of loud. And guys, that's it. All the other games have been at home. So this team, and I wonder if the confidence that Kirk Cignetti exudes, because there's an old saying, when I recruit you, I take on your personality. When you come here, you take on our personality. And that's a real thing. Can that swag have his team go in there and not let the crowd affect them? But it's not just going in there saying, I'm not going to let the crowd affect me. It's the silent count. It's dealing with stuff you haven't had to deal with against you on the road. Maybe some games at home with Indiana, where now they're filling it up and people are excited, but the offense is on the sideline when that's happening. You're not having a silent count. So I don't think Indiana can live in a world where they get 2 delay of games, where they get 3 false starts, or they get down to the goal line and it's 4th and goal from the 1 and they want to go for it, but oh no, the left tackle jumped, and now it's 4th and 6 and I got to kick a field goal. So how much will the crowd have an effect on this game? Probably a big one, but Cignetti's really good at winning things in the margin and getting his team prepared. So I'm interested.
So let me ask you this then. Bring up our current top 12 one more time, please, on the graphic. Let me ask you this. What if Indiana, who we have ranked number 3 right now, and they're going to play number 2, what if they lose by 17? They will have lost to the Buckeyes worse than Penn State did at home, though Penn State got them at home. What happens if they lose by 17-20, something like that?
I think it depends on how it looks. Like, is it where Ohio State got up and just ran the ball and ran the clock and you could tell they were better? Or is it something where, hey man, Indiana's been down by 10 the whole game, they're driving at the end of the game and they throw a pick 6? and it's a 17-point win. Or it's been a tighter game. Ohio State scores to go up 13 in the fourth quarter. Now Indiana's got to start throwing it and kind of miss that balance that we've been talking about earlier, and they throw a pick six. I just wonder if it is 17-20, David, how does that loss compare to a Texas loss at home by 15 against Georgia?
They would be in the Texas camp then.
They would be in the Texas camp to me.
They would be in the Texas camp. Obviously, if you go and you lose by a couple points, I think that's a good showing. I think that's going to stick in the minds of people, even though a loss is a loss. That's going to stick in the minds of a committee who's voting. Because I'm just thinking about your two scenarios here, where you said, they could win outright. Let's say they win outright and you give the Buckeyes 2 losses. That creates even a bigger logjam of 10-2 teams who likely won't play in their conference championship game, but who have, passed the eye test for much of the season and who have big brands. You'd be putting the Buckeyes right there with Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, because all those teams can't make their conference
championship. And it's true, but I think that would behoove some of those 10-2 SEC. Not that that's the best case scenario. The best case scenario for the 10-2 teams is that Indiana just gets blown out. That's what you want to have happen, and therefore Indiana missed the college football playoff. But I do wonder if that's when we get into the strength of schedule, A, and then what are your big wins? Because the 2 big games you played at, one at home, if they were to lose, one at home, one on the road, you lost both of them. Well, Alabama's got that win over Georgia, right? Tennessee's got that win over Bama. Ole Miss got that win over Georgia, right? Texas, I think, would be you want to talk about an interesting conversation at the end? What if Ohio State does lose this game, goes 10-2, doesn't play in the Big Ten championship, then Texas goes and loses to Texas A&M, they're 10-2, don't play in the SEC championship. Neither one of them have a great win. It's not like you can logo watch there or pick one bigger brand over the other.
I wonder if the common opponent against Michigan would play at all there.
I don't think that's a bad thought at all.
And Buckeyes might do the same next week.
Definitely
not, but we'll see.
All right, let's get to the chat. Let's get one, and then let's move on.
All right, let's go to a $3 donation from Buckeye Ben. What's up, man? He says, if Ohio State loses this game, where would we fall in the rankings?
That's a great question.
But here's the thing. In our rankings, you would fall a decent amount. But the College Football Playoff Committee has basically looked us in the eyes and told us they want the biggest brands in there. They want the biggest teams in there. So as far as their rankings, Texas not moving down just because they don't have a great win and sitting where Texas is sitting in the college football rankings would make you feel a lot better as an Ohio State fan if you lost, because you're seeing the way the committee is thinking. They're thinking brand and business over resume and result. So that will always favor the big dogs. Just like it always favors the politicians' kids. They always get in every school they want. They always get out of speeding tickets. That's just how it is, unfortunately. That's the way the committee's playing it. So in our rankings, you would fall decently and possibly out. But in the playoff committee's rankings, David, I don't think they would keep out Ohio State.
I still think they'd be right there on the cusp of that top 12. I think those 4 Big Ten teams are getting in, no matter how it shakes out, unless the Buckeyes were to lose the next 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Unless they were to lose the next 2 in a row, or unless they're to pick up a loss, but somehow you still play in the Big Ten championship game and pick up a 3rd loss. Obviously, the 3rd
or Indiana were to lose Ohio State and then Purdue or something like that.
Yeah, that could be weird. I think those 4 are already locked in, man.
Guys, we're getting close to the college football playoff, YouTube. If you're not subscribed yet, you need to wake up and start making some real decisions in your life that can help you move forward. And by hitting that subscribe button, that's a great step towards excellence.